Welcome everybody to Mud Flood Was Armageddon, the PG-13 version is because we're going to be talking about perverts in England, and because we already covered the United States. RJ's going to get us warmed up. He's here. He's ready. This is Mud Flood Was Armageddon, formerly Flat Earth Nation Golden Age Past. RJ, you sent me some links that are feeding right into the topics. How are you doing, man?
It's still the new year, isn't it?
2025. I was reminded of there's a famous actor named Ryan Reynolds, and he's the funniest guy in the world in his movies to some people. And he made a thing about 2020 where he dressed up like the devil, and then he met a girl that was a Satanist, and she was sad because nobody else thought 2020 was the greatest year ever. And he's going, no, it's good, right? This is fun. And he's going like, yeah, that's what I thought. And people just are sucked into it. They hate the Bible. I went and got my bill today from Adams State. Just where are we at right now? Where are we at? And I saw the guy, and I was, being my friendly self, not doing anything. And then another guy overheard a conversation where he goes, yeah, it's like one of those stories in the Bible where a little kid will save the day. And he was mocking it, and I'm thinking like, that's what we're dealing with. That's what we're dealing with in this world. I have to show a disclaimer because I'm going to get going on some videos and some other possibly things that need to be fair use disclaimed, to wit, respectively, the work of this nonprofit, blah, blah, boo. Let's see, we'll go with the pictures first, as per usual. So did I do anything since I did that one thing this morning? I got the pictures of John's clouds, the Tupperware boxes in the comb over boy, Donald Trump's new look, Twitter, kidney stones. What's up? Where's that one thing I just had for my thumbnail? Because I wanted to read that thing to you. Here it is. Here's what I cut out of that thumbnail. So almost an hour exactly show this morning. And when I was wrapping it up, I noticed Adam Price sent a Magnus Hirschfeld already established a transgender rights political group in 1897. And I tried my hardest to look normal. See, I'm trying to smile and everything. Strongly coded gender clothing. So that's this morning's topic. We're staying on topic. We're moving on, but we're going to get there. When we get there, what's the connection, RJ?
Come see us on tour. They never attack Israel.
Yeah. Also,
playing the entire video, that both of them are in the military. The one that drove the Cybertruck at Vegas Trump Tower, he was actually currently a Green Beret as well.
Yeah. Was he Green Beret or Special Forces somehow? I know.
Yeah, according their information.
I spent a lot of time out there in the field in Fort Bragg and on Fort Bragg and in
both of them had station Fort Bragg. Both of these, the veteran as well as the current, Green Beret, they were both stationed at Fort Bragg. Yep. I don't know if that's anything to brag about, but
well, we can't help it. Those of us who were stationed at Fort Bragg, you don't end up there unless you wanted to wear a beret. Now everybody in the Army wears a beret, but back in the day, it was a big deal. And I wanted one. A lot of people wanted one, and you had to go to Fort Bragg to get it through Fort Benning, and that's what we did. Yeah. So I wonder what the connection is here. Let's hear some.
Several times, and she's been talking about what's coming our way in 2025, and if what she's talking about is what just happened, they wasted no time. Get it?
Yeah, we
you
get
should
it. Not good.
be ready to protect yourself and defend yourself and your family. I'm not saying live in fear and be a hermit.
Hey, what's wrong with that? I mean, the hermit
Well,
part.
And this guy talking, I think he's like an ex-CIA cat.
Wow.
You know,
Those
he's just not a man on the street with an opinion.
Hey.
He,
Remember when the United States wanted to kill Julian Assange because they said that he's releasing information.
makes us look bad, huh?
Yeah, he's making us look bad.
With all the
Why wouldn't
facts.
they? Why wouldn't they? That's my question. Why wouldn't they? They tried to overthrow a democratically elected president twice, right? Russiagate was one big psyop to damage the president who won the they run things. January 6th, completely.
Who the PSYOP runs thing, or does Russia run things? What is he talking about?
Well, Whitney Webb has an opinion also.
Well, let's get her opinion, because she talks about the Bitcoin, right?
Well, not in this clip.
Oh.
In a series.
You got a spot in this you want me to hit, RJ?
Well, it's short enough, I think. Yeah, start at the beginning. You'll get the introduction just of what the remainder follows.
We're building a platform here, ladies and gentlemen. We think you can get the gist in a few minutes.
Of recent tweets, investigative journalist Whitney Webb dives into the deep entanglement of big tech, government, and private interests in shaping a dystopian future. Let's break this down one tweet at a time.
Fascism.
Webb begins by challenging.
Yeah, this is a meeting of the first fascism meeting. How in the world are we going to take over the world? It sounds like a movie, but somebody sat down and said, well, let's what did Balaam do? He got people all horny. He just said, go get horny. And people needed just no help at all. And they said, oh, I can do that. And then the next thing I guess they're getting blackmailed and stuff. I should listen more.
Challenging a naive assumption that giving big tech more power could somehow counterbalance governmental overreach, while in reality, these corporations are deeply embedded with military and intelligence agencies. She says in her tweet, anyone who still thinks that putting the big tech bros that contract for the military and intel agencies in charge of the GovT would somehow slow down the rollout of techno-dystopia are sure in for a big surprise. These guys are the private side of the public-private partnership, delivering the globalist surveillance state digital control agenda. Cloaking themselves in libertarian rhetoric sure fooled a lot of people. Whitney escalates her critique, pointing to the psychological manipulation at play. By blurring the lines between government and corporate interests, this deep state structure ensures its survival through deception. It's a reminder to scrutinize actions over words and to recognize the seamless integration of Silicon Valley and intelligence agencies. Americans will keep getting politically psyoped
Into oblivion.
It's
RJ,
a big chess game, yeah.
Does each country have its own deep state?
Well, it's probably just a continuation of those that are in the driver's seat of manipulation and what is perceived or what they want you to perceive as some sort of reality, which it's real enough as far as what they're doing, but to understand their motives and whatever their incentives, I suppose follow the money is a good beginning. But the way their minds think, I really don't as far as I don't want to be able to think like how they think,
you don't want to understand them. I get it.
And I couldn't understand them,
but crazy too.
As far as what the traits are, the symptoms of what they do is recognizable.
How they like to take turns putting their penises in each other's mouths and tricking,
including that,
weird shit, weird stuff that normally you would be like, whoa.
into oblivion until they can separate rhetoric from action in politics. Politicians and their allies lie to gain your trust, and they show their true colors eventually. Silicon Valley and the CIA are inseparable. Do some research and learn that the deep state is a public sector and private sector operation.
Oh.
In response to this, Tim Pool responds with a tweet saying, "The attacks on Elon and the narrative being built around censorship feels like an op. I'm not falling for it, and neither should you. They have been trying to get Elon and MAGA to go to war for weeks." In response to Tim Pool's tweet, Whitney concludes by dismantling the notion that Silicon Valley's elite are allies of the people. Instead, she paints a vivid picture of their true intentions. The real op was the effort to convince regular
I think I should read it. The real op was an effort to convince regular Americans that Silicon Valley oligarchs, who literally helped build and maintain the surveillance state for the intelligence, deeply invested in / promote COVID vaccines, mRNA tech, nanotech, want to price carbon, develop pre-crime tech used to target RJ and me alike, and are pushing for surveillance programmable money. Free money. That's your tax money. Cared about them and wanted to restore the country in prior times. Well, that was those Silicon Valley oligarchs. We forgot who we were talking about.
Well,
They
except
want
for
to
what
build
they just
American
identified.
technate.
Americans that Silicon
A new word for me. Where they hold power. What's new, Whitney? What's new?
Valley oligarchs, who literally help build and maintain the surveillance state, warning about the trajectory of our tech-driven society. Her insights underscore the importance of critical thinking and the need to question the narratives perpetuated by powerful entities. Webb concludes her thoughts on a December 30th tweet saying, "The Kissinger-Eric Schmidt book on AI basically states that the real promise of AI, from their perspective, is a tool of perception manipulation, that eventually people will not be able to interpret or perceive reality without the help of an AI via cognitive..."
Are they talking about Henry Kissinger? He's still around writing books? He's got to be one of those robots.
Yeah, I don't think this was published recently, other than evaluating what was disclosed, and what goes on to where AI is gonna check itself, I guess, or whatever.
He had a lot of trouble with Henry Kissinger in the Paris peace talks in the 60s, late 60s. I guess there was some sexual scandals, and that's why people like as ugly as Henry Kissinger go into politics, because they get the power, they get the money, and then they get their adrenochrome. And, I guess he lived that life to the fullest. What's this stuff? What was that picture?
And never surrender it. As citizens, staying informed and vigilant is crucial to resisting this creeping dystopia.
Ultimately, where I see this going is really where I see the powers that be, how they plan to use AI and what they plan to do to humanity with it. So I guess about a year ago, or maybe a little, I can't remember the exact date, but I wrote a piece for Catherine Austin Fitz's Solari report, which was basically a summary of what some of the architects of artificial intelligence, at least in the United States, see as what the real promise of AI is, and where it will take us, and what they anticipate will happen. And so I looked at this book by Eric Schmidt and Henry Kissinger called The Age of AI, Our Human Future. One of the reasons I did that is because Eric Schmidt was the lead of the National Security Commission on Artificial Intelligence. Okay. He has styled himself as Kissinger's heir, and did this before Kissinger died, and ultimately, has basically created the roadmap that the U.S. national security state will use in guiding its implementation of artificial intelligence. So
that's the Wide Roads plan, RJ. Mercy. They are serious. Let's listen to the last minute and a half. Living in an AI soup. And this girl has taught me more about the connections of the Lolita Express, Jeffrey Epstein, and the powers that be, down to the levels of where a former governor could recommend a girl that's never been even I don't think a vice president of a university, and she got the job because he wrote on the Lolita Express. So that gives them power.
We'll probably be censoring real people and not the AI slop, but the goal is ultimately to have it be about perception management, and ultimately the kind of world they envision is one where people depend on AI to tell them what is real and what is not. And that this is really the only way to deal with AI powered misinformation. And honestly, it makes, no sense. It's basically like AI is creating this problem, and so the solution is to essentially put AI in charge of everything and have it be sort of the processor of reality for us. And they also make these other arguments that as humans become more and more dependent on AI, including for perceiving reality, humans will lose the ability to do it themselves, and will sort of be in this place where they have to use AI to understand what's going on, and become and that humanity as a consequence will just become so easily manipulated to really unprecedented degrees. And when you consider
she's just going to end up with
But yeah, that they're speaking of majorities of this society.
right.
Would
The wide
fall
road is going to eat it
into
up.
that description. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll eat it up. This ought to be this is interesting. I've never seen this movie. I know it was supposed to be so good. Grooming, I'm assuming they mean that's how they trick the young children into having sex with them. That's a grooming, and the violence is probably what they do when they go to the John Podesta stages. I've
And you
heard.
get about halfway through, must have been about the 11-minute, 12-minute mark. He gets more to the matter at hand. I mean, the first portions about him criticizing how he doesn't know who wrote the speech, but yeah, the king delivered it, and because he said it, it's supposed to have some sort of impact to the listeners.
Oh yeah,
Is his
yeah. The whole
assessment
background is
of that. But then he gets into that guy that exposed this. I forget what his name is, but I guess he's currently serving time in prison for exposing it. And but yeah, you get about midway, then that's kind of the second half of the video gets more in depth pertaining to the fact of the matter.
we're going to hit a lot of facts, and here's a start off right here.
Let him also talk about the nefarious way in which the government misused the criminal justice system. But of course he can't. He would never be allowed to criticize the government like that. And yet he is allowed by the speechwriters to denigrate the people who came out onto the streets in protest against the killing of their daughters. See, that was a huge risk. I think it's backfired. Looking at the numbers of views of my previous video at a point when it could go viral, the comments left and the tenor of the comments were almost universally ones of outrage. The sense of outrage throughout the country, but exemplified in a response to that video, was that people were not fooled, and they were furious and disgusted that the king should have been used by the speechwriters, by the state, in order to continue the cover-up. Now it gets worse. One of the things that's happened.
Well, we're going to get into what they covered up. I got it all pulled up.
Crisis about largely Muslim men raping white children has broken surface, partly thanks to Elon Musk. In fact, Lord Pearson Rannoch, who's one of the few people in the House of Lords who ever dares ask questions about the effect of Islam, he raised in a speech recently, he said that the estimation is that 250,000 British white girls have been raped by largely Muslim men over the last 25 years. Let that sink in. 250,000, roughly, raped by largely, not exclusively, but largely Muslim men over the last 25 years. That's partly why
Systematic
Tommy Robinson's in prison, because he
organization.
did a documentary.
See, that's the guy, Tommy Robinson.
So there has
Go ahead.
Well, he just named that, I don't know, reporter or whatever that exposed it, and he's in prison. You know, you'd have to go back, 15 seconds or 20 seconds to catch what he just revealed.
sink in. 250,000, roughly, raped by largely, not exclusively, but largely Muslim men over the last 25 years. That's partly why Tommy Robinson's in prison, because he did a documentary exposing it. So there has, just in the last couple of days, been a request for an inquiry. The safeguarding minister of the government is Jess Phillips. She's very well known. She's a brassy Birmingham woman who plays a central role in the Conservative government. Let me just read to you from a report in The Spectator about what's taken place, because Elon Musk has called for her to be jailed for the cover-up. The cover-up that the king also took part in by means of the way in which his speech was intended to draw a veil over the problems of immigration and the abuse of our children. There is a difference between children being murdered and knifed to death and raped, but it's one of scale, not of substance. So we're talking about the same issue here, the abuse of white girls by activist Muslims of one kind or another. Today, Jess Phillips found herself in the face of another Twitter storm after GB News reported that she had formally rejected repeated requests for a Home Office-led inquiry into historic child abuse in Oldham. Phillips wrote that it is for Oldham Council alone to decide to commission an inquiry into child sexual exploitation locally, rather than for the government to intervene. Various Tory politicians took to social media platforms to express their dismay. Labour Ben Houchen, mayor of Tees Valley, wrote, Labour MP spent years calling for investigations and inquiries into anything and everything, but now the Minister for Safeguarding and Violence against Women and Girls has rejected an inquiry into the Oldham grooming scandal, and that's sickening. Liz Truss called Phillips's title Parliamentary Under Secretary of State for Safeguarding and Violence against.
What's that, RJ?
Yeah, to say it's sickening, that's putting it mildly, for sure.
And I don't feel like anything's going to happen. I don't think that it's going to be like, boy, we solved it. And we're going to go to.
That's like anything that's being exposed. But then, yeah, everything's a conspiracy. And yeah, people say, well, there's not a. People even looking at this say, well, there's not enough evidence. Well, you're being ignorant, with like anything else that's been exposed, whether it's by, WikiLeaks or whoever, you even yourself that has exposed, a significant amount of eye-opening, material. Yeah, what can be done about it? Being informed helps, so you're able to recognize the times we are living in. This doesn't go on indefinitely, but yeah, it'd probably get worse for sure.
What we have is, I need to remind people, there are no good guys or women unless they are on board. I mean, they're going to be deceived by the 3D, by the AI, by the cognitive dissonance. By the time they walked into their first classroom with a globe, they never had a chance unless they'd been born again by the Spirit, not physically, born again by the Spirit. And that calling when you recognize that really this is all about judgment of Jesus Christ and proving that the Bible is true. That's the main takeaway. Now we're about to get into it's the focus on the little girls in this case. I get it. That's bad. But the majority of these men are homosexuals who are raping little boys because that's the most perverse thing, I think. You know, it's a matter of scale. They're all bad, but the idea of taking boys and not letting them be men, not teaching them about what we know that, you know, man, woman, life, you can make it work and, you know, delay gratification. That is what it's all about. So as we enter in some of these hard topics right now, and starting from like the conversation that, you know, I would encourage Neil to stick around too and put this in your pipe. We got a comment earlier today. I had never heard of Magnus Hirschfeld. Found a balance between practicing medicine and writing about his findings. He interviewed the human zoos and went to ask them, just, you know, he had permission to go into the zoo, not to free them, but to ask them, were there homosexuals in your culture? Because that's all he really cared about. Unbelievable. I had not heard of this man. If I did, it was in passing. German physician, sexologist, LGBTQ in the 1800s, whose citizenship was later revoked by the Nazi government. They were burning his books, RJ, but who wouldn't? It doesn't make them the good guys. Not at all. They were theosophists, Crowleyites, non-Christian crazy people. Just because somebody else's enemy is your enemy does not make them your friend when it's such a narrow road. World League of Sexual Reform. They all wanted to go like, hey, how come all of us guys that are in charge, we're going through, remember they're dressing like girls. I don't know if the people remember the video from this morning. They're dressing their little boys and girls just like we were right now. A couple of years ago before COVID and trailing into the lockdown, people were having come out. Oh, we're going to tell you if we're going to have a boy or a girl or if we're going to let them decide. And there were big videos about it.
Yeah, I've had it, you know, that was during a time where, you know, diaper wearing, you know, changing accessibility, just simplified it. If they wore, you know, didn't matter on the gender, but put them in a dress where it simplified, you know, the necessary task of changing diapers. You know,
yeah, they had the cloth diapers back then. I don't think they had the
disposables, yeah, probably weren't.
Yeah, and I don't think that the dressing like their children like little girls was a thing in the whole world, you know. I think it was only for the rich and the elite that they were into it, you know. They're smarter than the Christians. They're better than the Christians. They had Darwinism. They had eugenics. They had it all figured out. It was a gilded age, and industrialization was way out of control because no matter what they wanted to build, all they had to do was use fiat money. Crazy, right? And these guys end up later on, you know, even though he's, you know, kind of at the time, everybody knows this is not how the world made it this far. It made it this far by men and women falling in love and having children. And now, since Satan's been loose, and especially in this last 45-year period since 9/11, everything's gone completely back to 100 years ago, to the complete insanity. And so he got forced into exile where he died, but he has not been unstudied since then. You know, since this time of like, well, I just wanted to have sex with children, you know, what's the problem? I think that's quite the case, and that's where this is going to go. Several years as a doctor in Magdeburg, and Magdeburg is one of the big starport cities. That's where the pictures are, where they show the lights in the sky. And I've heard of this is Sappho is lesbians and Socrates is gay love, because they used to take little boys, pederast, they called them. Not preterist, pederast. So
It's in pedophile.
it's another term for it. They would claim that they just used them. Who knows? It's homosexual. Generals used to take little boys, and it was illegal for long. And this group said no. You know, come on, man. Look at all these people. Look at all the people. Under Hirschfeld's leadership, the Scientific Humanitarian Committee gathered 6,000 signatures from those same prominent Germans that invented quantum physics so they could fake the atomic bomb and fake that the white people won World War II. No, that's a lot, but these are those people, especially some of the ones that I'm highlighting here. These were the people that were really the worst of the worst. August Babel. You couldn't have a more appropriate name. And so anyway, a frequent figure we've been mentioning later, Hirschfeld used his writings to the hell experienced by homosexuals. We've heard, you know, regular people have made their life miserable, RJ, and they're angry about it. Things got to change. We got a little breathing room now because enough of the people said, wait a darn minute. What the heck's going on here? And, you know, it all morphed from this. Well, women's votes. Well, they wasn't votes for white women. That's implied. They never said we want votes for black women. They were happy to let them wait to 1964, like everybody else. To act like women can't be as bad as men. Only men are bad. Women are good. Men were horn dogging. Women should be able to do it too. We need the pill. We need this. We need that. We need unfettered sexuality. And it flowed downhill to the children. Does the Bible ever say like father, like son? No. 3 times it says like mother, like daughter. Crazy. This guy, it just goes, look at this, how long of a write-up he has. It goes over his whole life of every Jewish person that he ever ran into and kissed. I wonder how many pictures there are of this groomer. Beautiful, revealing pictures. There you go.
Pornography?
That's what it was. It had to be gay pornography back in the day, huh? So he died in a mud flood house. And he got it, you know, through science to justice. Well, there's their wisdom, science, what it means. Streets named after him. I mean, to the wide road, he's the gift that keeps giving. They want all kinds of perversion. They don't want anything to do with the Bible. And those are the only people you can trust. And a lot of those people are lying. Oh my goodness. Hottentot Venus. I mean, Hottentot. It sounds, they make it sound like it means a small black person from, you know, it doesn't, but they were going Hottentot, you know, for them it means something else. White supremacist Mother India attacking the book Mother India by white supremacists. So, I mean, it just is unbelievable how much they wrote about him in the films. They started making movies, fiction. They write about him. Look at all these works he wrote. Man, he was just nonstop. And all these other people were in on it with him. Yeah. Oh boy. Nothing pulled up. This is my algorithm, everybody. Let's see what's number one on my hit parade. Cold Case Christianity, weather, and Appalachian history. Yep, this is right up my alley. I probably would look at some of them. Chronogram. 7 historic abandoned ruins to explore around Hudson Valley. This is something we'll probably go over later, RJ. I've got all these things I want to look up. There's all these things in Hudson Valley. I'm going to get on it probably after this show. But anyway, how did a pro-pedophile group called PIE exist openly for 10 years? That was written about 11 years ago. RJ, this is from the BBC. Shocking, right? I know I'm shocked. Are you shocked?
Well, not much surprises me any longer. Yeah, it might be a disgusting story, but yeah.
They did it. These guys did it. They promoted the Hirschfield. And nobody said anything for about 10 years until the 80s, mid 80s. That's weird, right? So these guys like to trick little boys into letting them be perverted with them. The Pedophile Information Exchange, PI, allegedly, I have another article pulls up where there are some people that accuse this of being funded by the CIA from the United States. It's the Central Intelligence Agent, formerly the OSS, by Bull Donovan. Wow, Bill. The Gay Rights Conference backs a motion in favor of pedophilia. The story is written up by a national newspaper as child lovers win fight for a role in gay lib. Comments? Anything?
Well, yeah, to identify the CIA, yeah, that shouldn't be any surprise, but yeah, they have anything that's evil and disgusting pretty much worldwide seems to have the roots
in the
through
70s. Resurged it right after 9/11 into, you know what, we need to, well, part of our story should be how pedophiles tried to go mainstream in the 70s. And I guess with the MAPS thing, they want to take it, all the nations can't agree on when young adults can, in their eyes, legally have sex. I mean, we don't want to go into different, but it's different ages. Nobody agrees on, well, yeah, that's too young or whatever. So they worked at that. The group behind the attempt, the PI, Pedophile Information Exchange, is back in the news because of a series ran by the Daily Mail. It revisited the story of Pi. How much Herman and her husband, that's a member of parliament, Jack Dromey, knew about the group during their time at the National Council for Civil Liberties, now Liberty, in the late 70s. Pi was affiliated with the National Council of Civil Liberties all that time. Many of the revelations are going like, hey, members of parliament, and that's where we're going. Politicians are into this kind of weirdness. Pi was formed in 1974. We don't know how they got the money. One was a KGB spy that brought it all down. It campaigned for children's sexuality. It wanted the government to axe or lower the age of consent because in their mind, if they can do that MK Ultra hypnotizing brainwash, yes means yes for any age, I guess. And that's what their aim was.
Yeah, and the distinction here, it isn't just, children with children consenting. These are adults with children.
That's it's sure these guys sure look, yeah. And they're spies.
Yeah. Yeah, their motives, their intents. Yeah, it isn't just children being children or older children being children, experimenting, whatever.
Yeah.
It isn't that at all.
If you don't get nervous about your first kiss, you didn't get raised like me.
Would you not think that most adults would feel that a developed consideration for children would involve leaving children alone sexually to find their own way for themselves with their own peer groups and not with adults?
Yes, I would be all in favor of children finding their own way sexually. But I think also that adults have a part to play because children are one part of the whole society. It isn't the society where we
Okay, that's enough. There were people mad. They considered it outrageous. Not everyone was down with Pi, but Pi managed to gain support from some professional bodies and progressive groups. It received invitations from student unions. I wonder if my university would have invited them before this last couple of years. I think we're about to make a stink about it. Protesting. Most gay people were horrified. But they said if there was anything with the word liberation in the name, you were automatically in favor of it if you were young and cool. And it seemed like Pi had slipped through the net of common sense. Pi is just part of the problem. They had a girl back in the day that was trying to expose it, unlike the girl today trying to hide it. Oh, wait. She was coming under fire because she actually was maybe.
What's the, the dot for the I in liberty? What's up with what's going on? What's that?
That is a bomb, like one of the bombs from the Pink Panther movies, man. He's going to bomb the Y. I guess. I don't know.
Okay. Why?
So,
why not? Yeah.
Yeah. So there were divisions within the progressive circles. In 1977, for homosexual equality passed by a large majority, a resolution condemning the harassment of Pi, the pedophile information exchanged by the press. Did she do that? I wonder what was in it for her. We can't see how long her fingers are, but she certainly has You know what Trump would be jealous of? His hands are bigger than Rudy Giuliani's, but is that saying much? We don't know. I've never shook hands with either of them. Ba-bum. There they are. What'd they do? Critics, pie critics. Way to go. They're the good people. If they are. By this council continued to defend pie as a member as late as September 1983. Oh, okay. I think I beat that dead horse. I'm going to make him more deader, RJ. Whenever I see a dead horse, I want to beat him more deader.
Yeah, man. It.
Okay, so 1984, we'll pick it up. A dossier on pedophiles allegedly associated with the British government was assembled by the members of parliament, just MPs is how people like to read it. Oh, this guy did it. And he handed it over to this guy. Hey, what's up? The whereabouts of the dossier is now unknown, along with other files on the organized child abuse. Go, RJ. What new, right?
Just, yeah, it's not new news. It's just, yeah.
I remember in 1990,
re-exposed.
The law records from the Rose law firm that Hillary Clinton worked for went missing for over a year. And then they just found them. They were sitting on the desk the whole time. Nobody noticed them.
Yeah. There's nothing suspicious with that.
Well, we're only in the first. They lost it all, RJ. They had them, as they say, by the short hairs. Because we're talking about that kind of stuff today. This is a PG-13 show. They had it by the short hairs, and they let them go. We knew they are who they are who we thought they are, and we let them off the hook. A famous coach from the Vikings or somebody said that, or the Cardinals or somebody announced that it. So now are they looking into it again? Background is what we need. Between 1981 and 1985, the MP Dickinson campaigned against a suspected pedophile ring he claimed to have uncovered and was connected to trading child pornography. In 1981, Dickens in the House of Commons accused this man, a sir, but let's face it, the Queen can't have all those perverted children. That she knows everything they did because it all came out in the news. And I'm sure she knew about it before. Unless there's some weirdness going on. And there has a lot of questions surrounding the Queen and her husband. And so, this must have been when the pedophile exchange people got unpopular. Because that member of parliament was a member of that. I didn't see him on the camera defending his views, but apparently Dickens called it, that vast sums were being spent on the evil and dangerous, and the United States has been accused of generating those things in Ukraine next door to the biolabs. That's just crazy talk from a guy that should be allowed to go. Shouldn't I be able to say anything, RJ? I claim to be like adopted by God, big brother, my adopted big brother is Jesus and all that. They already think I'm weird.
Choose your words carefully. You may need to eat them later, huh?
Yum. So Dickens described the dossier that's lost when he turned it over. Why did he turn it over to that guy? To blow the lid off the lives of notable. In our country, people accused Hillary Clinton's campaign manager of that type of stuff because of the whole Eat the Pain, Marina Abramovich, spirit cooking stuff that he got fished into with some of the emails that were released. Aftermath. They just couldn't do anything. They made him look bad because they didn't have the dossier. Now, I guess it became an alleged dossier. They were going to let him off the hook, but there was one woman that was fighting it, and her son was one of the people that got abused, and then he killed himself. So it just kept going, into the 80s. And of course, we'll get to what the hell was going on in the White House with Reagan and the gayness that was going on there with the Franklin. We're going to hit them all, RJ. So that was one. Here's another one. Guest house hoax. Hotel near the Barnes Common. Sexual abuse and grooming by prominent British men in the late 70s, early 80s. This was a hoax or something.
Yeah,
the role
before Epstein was in the news.
Something, all the way up to May 2019. And remember, these started a long time ago. They've been covering it up, and they will continue to cover it up, RJ. Only the people that should be running for their lives and not ready to go into gunfights with these people. They're trained killers. We can live to live another day. We don't have to die. Shoot. Go ahead, RJ.
I think as far as you assessing it, that it's just more of the same. This has been going on.
Ending, yeah. It just seems like
you can probably dig quite a hole and never
Right.
reach the bottom of it.
My goodness, I almost went crazy when I found out about these things in 2014 through 2016. And then the girl that Linda, the girl I named the Linda Hartstone after, the first one that gave all those great proofs of the body being reserved in judgment in stone. She just told me, "Oh, you cannot focus on it. You cannot focus on it. You've got your mission, And,
you mean dwell on it?
Yeah, dwell on it. I can't let it make me. It was so. It's very heartbreaking. And so here's another one from the late 80s to 2013. It's all our life, RJ. What the hell? Come on, man.
Well, yeah, I'm sure this going on before I was even the twinkle in my old man's eye, probably. But yeah, our entire lifetimes, certainly.
What's this? There's a Cornish ruins was going to do something tonight. Oh, yeah, I already knew that they served at the same base.
It's called Turo to get their vehicles. Now, the FBI said there is no definitive link between the two, but given these odd similarities, possible connections are still being looked into.
It looks like a fake mustache on Ahmad.
Rent the Cybertruck from Colorado, then
I
drive
know
to
that's not his
Vegas,
real name. I
then in a
forgot
matter
it.
of 15 to 20 seconds, park in front of Trump International and shoot himself in the head before the vehicle exploded. It remains a mystery. Officials are still working to...
A mystery? That remains an impossibility, dumbass.
Before the vehicle exploded, it remains a mystery. Officials
I
are still
didn't give
working to
enough
figure out
chance
how
to
the
hear the
similarities, possible connections are still being looked into. But Livelsberger's motive to rent the Cybertruck from Colorado, then drive to Vegas.
The similarities are still being ignored
in front of Trump International and shoot himself in the head before the vehicle exploded. It remains a mystery. Officials are still
I
working
like to know. You know what? I am. I don't want to show my hands up too close. They might think I'm throwing a gang sign, but that close to getting my own Freedom of Information Act on myself, because I'd like to know what the hell happened to me when I was at Fort Bragg. Because I used to volunteer to get a day off all the time. Hey, who wants to give blood? Who wants to do this? And honestly, there's a lot of things I don't remember about what happened at Fort Bragg when I had this finger operated on because of the gangrene that the hospital left in me. A nurse said, "Wow, you've had a bone taken out of your thumb." When? Well, it had to be when you were full grown. Really? There's supposed to be 5 bones here, and she showed me. So I've got that somewhere. And I go, like, you mean they took a bone out of me? He goes, like, yeah, I don't even know how your thumb works. Works fine. Whatever I don't know, man. It's weird. Hey, Veil Break is here off grid. John, Marcella, Sergio, Little Seasonite. It sounds like Samsonite. I really appreciated your shout out to Mud Flood was Armageddon this morning. I mean, I really did. Okay, I could get back at this other one now. All right. I think I was almost ready to start crying. This will be the last one for today. Franklin child prostitution ring. These are only allegations, but I believe they're true. They began in 1988.
This in Illinois, or what do you mean, Franklin, or what?
Nebraska.
Oh, Franklin, Nebraska.
Yeah, okay. Omaha, so that they could fly into the Offutt Air Force Base where all the important people have to go.
All right.
So it's in Omaha. This is where Warren Buffett made all his money. Mutual of Omaha. Muddy Floody. Everywhere. Another Union Stockyards. Bob Carey Bridge. Not a fan of Bob Carey. There's an old market because it's an old world town. We stole it fair and square, man. That guy did it. And then he built that in 2 years, probably. Then it burned down, but then they built it again 2 or 3 times. That was a crazy looking bridge. We're getting it all. There's that dome again. Epley Field. It's one of their things for their SAC, Strategic Air Command, part of their setup system here. I would think we'll get into some of the history of aviation here. 57 official airline guide shows 42 scheduled airline departures a day. All to go see Warren Buffett. So this is their main thing. It's not the Offutt. I feel like I'm going to have to look up Offutt. Unless it says airports in Nebraska. This is where Dick Cheney went and George Bush on 9/11, because they got the deepest bunkers and they really feel safe when they're at Offutt. I don't see a Phrygian cap at the Air Combat Command. A lot of rivers. That's what it looked like in 1936. Ooh, I'd like to get a big picture of that. You know, the tunnels were there. Something was there. My son was there. He got trained there as a spy. That's where the spies go to. Hey, this was a, see? Thank you, Father. There's George Bush. Nobody knew where he was. Where's George Bush? We need him to comfort the country. There's the Cobra Ball. This is all the museum. They're proud of their situation there. And they all flew in there to be accused allegations. State federal authorities began looking into allegations of the prominent, only the prominent are allowed, as well as high-level United States politicians. There are allegations that they were involved in a child prostitution ring, that they would fly in boys. Alleged abuse victims were interviewed who claimed that children in foster care were flown to the East Coast of the United States to be sexually abused. The allegation centered on Larry King Jr., that's Lawrence E. King Jr., who ran the now defunct Franklin Community Federal Credit Union in Omaha, hosted lavish parties in which minors were sexually abused. King was a rising figure in the Republican Party before the investigation. I wonder if the allegations were just too much. Numerous conspiracy theories, of which I believe probably all of them, spread after the committee was announced, claiming that the alleged abuse was part of a widespread satanic panic series of crimes, including devil worship, cannibalism, drug trafficking, and CIA arms deals. In my mind, settled fact, all of those are true. And it was involved not only Democrats, it were Republicans. The people in power are weirded. They like to do, I think, I allege child prostitution, but I have no proof. It's just because no citation. This is Wikipedia. What do they have no citation for? The Nebraska State Foster Care Review Board submitted the results of a 2-year investigation into the alleged physical and sexual abuse of foster children to the executive board of the Nebraska legislature, who were investigating reports of abuse linked to the credit union. They had so much trouble with the credit unions back then. They were trying to just
as far as the victims of the abuse implies, survivors. As far as that cannibalism thing, I'm thinking, they never survived. The victims never survived that ordeal.
So many are found in the shallow graves right outside the foster homes, the Indian schools, the nunneries. This will be pretty long. 101 pages. May not reflect recent changes. They didn't do it all, but they did it. They teach it. They condone it. They pay billions. They launder money through this type of perversion, RJ, and we're supposed to separate. We got to separate.
Well, it's like a mafia type mindset, but maybe more satanic and evil, but still bad. I mean, mafia is bad enough, but that implies that when you get into the specifics.
Have you ever heard the mafia
and gruesome
not be like, oh, our Hail Mary, we believe, like, let's go to the priest? The mafia's, the Italians and the whites, the Dixies, they're all into Catholicism. I know that the Tongs are not, but they're not into the Lord. That is for sure.
Yeah.
They got a whole thing about Dubuque. A lot of mudflooders been studying Dubuque.
Well, for good reason, yeah.
I can't do this much longer. We're gonna have to let's look at this.
Yeah, you're at 65 minutes now.
Yeah. Let's go to the Song of Moses. He told them, I'm going to write this song. I want you guys to learn it.
Well, yeah, the Lord told him to write the song. Yeah.
So here's the deal. In 31, they introduce it. Then Moses spoke the words of this song until they were finished in the ears of all the assembly. And I love it when they have these quotes, like the letter in Acts 15 and the letter that, when they tried to get him to stop building the temple, and, Ezra and Nehemiah, he was like, oh, we found it written on a scroll. It said this. I just love it. RJ, you feel like knocking this one out for us, brother?
Yeah, I can attempt this.
Song
Give
of
ear, O heavens, and I will speak, and let the earth hear the words of my mouth. May my teaching drop as the rain, my speech distill as the dew, like gentle rain upon the tender grass, and like showers upon the herb. For I will proclaim the name of the Lord, ascribe greatness to our God. The rock, his work is perfect, for all his ways are justice. A God of faithfulness and without iniquity, just and upright is he. They have dealt corruptly with him. They are no longer his children because they are blemished. They are a crooked and twisted generation. Do you thus repay the Lord, you foolish and senseless people? Is not he your father who created you, who made you and established you? Remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations. Ask your father, and he will show you, your elders, and they will tell you. When the Most High gave to the nations their inheritance, when he divided mankind, he fixed the borders of the peoples according to the number of the sons of God. But the Lord's portion is his people, Jacob his allotted inheritance. He found him in a desert land, and in the howling waste of the wilderness. He encircled him, he cared for him, he kept him as the apple of his eye, like an eagle that stirs up its nest, that flutters over its young, spreading out its wings, catching them, bearing them on its pinions. The Lord alone guided him. No foreign god was with him. He made him ride on the high places of the land, and he ate the produce of the field. And he suckled him with honey out of the rock and oil out of the flinty rock, curds from the herd and milk from the flock, with fat of lambs, rams of Bashan, and goats, with the very finest of the wheat. And you drank foaming wine made from the blood of the grape. Jehoshaphat grew fat and kicked. You grew fat, stout, and sleek. Then he forsook God who made him and scoffed at the rock of his salvation. They stirred him to jealousy with strange gods. With abominations, they provoked him to anger. They sacrificed to demons that were no gods, to gods that they had never known, to new gods that had come recently, whom your fathers had never dreaded. You were unmindful of the rock that bore you, and you forgot the God who gave you birth. The Lord saw it and spurned them because of the provocation of his sons and his daughters. And he said, I will hide my face from them. I will see what their end will be, for they are perverse generation, children in whom is no faithfulness. They have made me jealous with what is no God. They have provoked me to anger with their idols. So I will make them jealous with those who are no people. I will provoke them to anger with a foolish nation. For a fire is kindled by my anger, and it burns to the depths of Shiloh, devours the earth and its increase, and sets on fire the foundations of the mountains. And I will heap disasters upon them. I will spend my arrows on them. They shall be wasted with hunger and devoured by plague and poisonous pestilence. I will send the teeth of beasts against them with the venom of things that crawl in the dust. Outdoors the sword shall breathe, and indoors terror. For young man and women alike, the nursing child with the man of gray hairs, I would have said, I will cut them to pieces. I will wipe them from the human memory. Had I not feared provocation by the enemy, lest their adversaries should misunderstand, lest they should say, our hand is triumphant. It was not the Lord who did all this. For they are the nation void of counsel, and there is no understanding in them. If they were wise, they would understand this. They would discern their latter end. How could one have chased 1,000 and two have put 10,000 to flight, unless their rock had sold them and the Lord had given them up? For their rock is not as our rock. Our enemies are by themselves. For their vine comes from the vine of Sodom and from the fields of Gomorrah. Their grapes are grapes of poison. Their clusters are bitter. Their wine is the poison of serpents and the cruel venom of asps.
Oops.
Is not this laid up in store with me, sealed up by my treasures? Vengeance is mine, and recompense for the time when their foot shall slip. For the day of their calamity is at hand, and their doom comes swiftly. For the Lord will vindicate his people and have compassion on his servants. When he sees that their power is gone and there is none remaining, bond or free, then he will say, where are their gods, the rock in which they took refuge, who ate the fat of their sacrifices and drank the wine of their drink offering? Let them rise up and help you. Let them be your protection. See now that even I am he, and there is no God beside me. I kill and I make alive. I wound and I heal, and there is none that can deliver out of my hand. For I lift up my hand to heaven and swear, as I live forever, if I sharpen my flashing sword and my hand takes hold on judgment, I will take vengeance on my adversaries, and I will repay those who hate me. I will make my arrows drunk with blood, and my sword shall devour flesh, with the blood of the slain and the captives from the long-haired heads of the enemy. Rejoice with him, O heavens. Bow down to him, all gods. For he avenges the blood of his children and takes vengeance on his adversaries. He repays those who hate him and cleanses his people's land.
Okay, well, there you go. He recited all those words to this song in the hearing of the people. Wow. Moses had finished speaking all these words. He said to them, take heart by all the words by which I am warning you today, that you may command them to your children. Not suggest them. And that's where things get hard in our upside down world, where how can a man tell a 14-year-old girl who's going, right on the verge of becoming greater than him, better than him, because she's not a man? Where are we at in the world today, RJ? Where do you think this ministry should go?
Well, it is a short season. So, yeah, as far as timing, yeah, nothing could be more critical. to be involved, doing the Lord's will. And yeah, everyone has different, maybe even specific opportunities to recognize what's expected, to do doing the right thing,
Yeah, what's expected?
whatever that may be.
Do the right thing, like Spike Lee said in that movie I never saw, but I remember do the right thing, and that's always good advice because I used to end my show or start my show by saying, trust your spirit as long as you can reconcile it with the Bible. Your conscience is there for a reason. People feel guilty because they're really guilty. They know it. This word that's written on our heart is also written on their heart. They're warned in Romans that there's going to be people that know it's wrong, but still teach them, come on. And their faith is not strong enough, RJ. So we pray that they will have increased faith. And when are you going to be available next time, you think?
Well, I'll be around Monday and Tuesday. I'll be leaving early Wednesday, and then I'll be flying back on the 16th. But yeah, the weekend
So
is
be
funeral tomorrow.
Are you taking your computer, or are you gonna just?
Oh no,
okay.
Because I'm driving down, flying back, then returning here, and then driving back next month.
Well, we're on our own for a couple of weeks, but we'll try to maximize. And you'll be here this Sunday.
Yeah, I'll be here. Yeah, this Sunday morning.
Ladies and gentlemen, that'll wrap it up. Remember, you're on a narrow road for a reason. What is the will of God? Oh, Romans 12 says the will of God is that you treat your body like a living sacrifice, wholly acceptable to God. That's one way to make it. Now that the mud flood was Armageddon, Satan was in prison for 1,000 years. Then they had a reaping, and now we got this whole orphan train thing going. That's, got a couple decades. Believe me, it flies by. It goes by so fast. And it will always help to remember it's a flat earth nation. The golden age is past because the mud flood was Armageddon. We're never going to tell you anything else. Why would we? We're busy trying to prove we have your best interest at heart. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho, aloha, arrivederci, ciao, sayonara, auf Wiedersehen, nakame. That's how you say goodbye.